Core to this computer. Cool. So, welcome one and all to the Giant Kelp Restoration Tankers 2.0 instructors webinar here. So this webinar is for instructors who will be teaching the course, and it's to introduce you to what we're doing here and for the Tankers 2.0 and some different slides could be added to the curriculum here for the new protocol that we're doing out at Tankers Reef. So first of all, who am I? My name is Keith Rutzart. I'm the executive director of the membership nonprofit, the California Kelp Restoration Corps, doing business as the Giant Kelp Restoration Project. And we have a board members right now for the board, Peter Ottersbach, Michelle Allen, Mary Jo Nelson, and Bruce Watkins. So this is probably familiar to you. This is the Tankers Reef site that was defined by a change to fishing regulations to establish this red boundary area as a place to do legal culling at Tankers Reef with little hammers out there for a period of 3 years. And when we came in 2021, there was just a little bit of kelp here. And we laid down this cable grid, which is 100 meters by 100 meters. And in this particular area, the orange is where historically, this mustard color is where the kelp was historically over the last 30 years. So there was kelp in here and over on this side as well. But we're not culling on that side. We were culling on this side of this no culling control area line on this side. And it's very close to the shore access right here, which is at the Del Monte townhomes. We can get into the water right there from the shore and from the wharf, which is right here and going out at Fisherman's Wharf. And this area here is the marine protected area where there's granite reefs. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. So this is our methods. We have an underwater cable grid, and these are bolted to the bottom, and they still remain right now. Even 4 years later, they're holding up pretty well. There are leaded lines along this side here and this side here. There's also lines that go this way. They're clothesline. In some places, they're like this plastic line that cannot hold a knot on over on this side. There are letters on the ends that go from A to K on both sides. The Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary has added an additional line. So there's two lines down in here and they're zip tied together just to give it some extra strength because it was breaking at points. And this is our other method that we use, which is the buoy. So it's a single buoy with a cable that runs down it. And you go to a spot on the cable and try to go in that direction using the absence of urchins as, the culled urchins as your guide to where to be able to cull the urchins in that space. But it's a little different this time. We're not going to be culling them, so there's a little different rules this time. So this is what it looked like underwater. Uh, and there's lots of Stereonictum around, and it kind of wraps around the reefs. These urchins are burrowing into the rocks. Probably not these urchins, but the ancestors of these urchins made these holes a long time ago. And they like to live in these little holes and wait for the kelp to come up to them. And they can get it and bring it to their mouths and consume that kelp. And they go into the holdfast of the kelp. They burrow little holes in there, and they like to eat the center of that. And once they eat those big Hoptera at the bottom there, it's kind of lights out for that kelp. And what we got was a lot of little ones out on the reef that were eating the kelp when it was just like became a little plant at that point. So what we were going to do was for the 2023 season, we were going to expand and push out into the space. This was the existing kelp that, we could move the kelp forest, long story short, to this area, which was about 10 acres. And we set the buoys over here, and we wanted to go out and repopulate because this was a kelp forest before. We want to put it back onto the reef. But they wanted to shut us down. And so they gave us an option. Well, you can stay there if you go 100 meters away from the existing grid. So we tried to not call here. We excluded it from our assignments, and we called out in this area between this orange buoy line and the other area. And we did that for quite a bit, for about 3 or 4 months at the end of that year. And we only got new kelp in one spot. We couldn't get kelp to go against the normal swell out to this site in that 2023 year. We were working in the fall, so kelp doesn't really recruit until uh, generally the next year, like in March or April, May is kind of when new giant kelp would come on to the reef. So I don't know why this is like that. I mean, okay. So what happened was the urchins came predictably and ate all that kelp um, that was on this area, and OR's kelp forest was reduced to 2.3 acres at the end of that year when it sunsetted in April of 2024. And then oh, there's the animation. And then what we found is that in the following year, in August of 24, uh, well, same year. We had kelp come out in that area where we had done the calling. It reached the surface in this area, and it actually worked better than we thought. We didn't think it was going to go that way, but we were able to get kelp to grow out here. So we have this area we called in the fall, and there's a grid that was abandoned in the summer of 2023. So this is the results uh, of all the input from all the divers going out on the site. Uh, People reported their urchins that they called, and they also, if they didn't, we estimated by the work rate at the time, looking back, and we called almost 750,000 urchins in that time. The purple urchin to red urchin ratio is about 20 and a quarter uh, purple urchins to each red urchin. So purple urchins dominate in this site. And this is the urchins called over time. Each year has a different color. And in 2024, there's just a dot because I did just for giggles. I went out and just took two urchins, one of each species. And so you get a dot for 2024. But every other year, like we had a great amount of urchins called over the time. And on this one on the bottom here, the green is the area we did on the grid, and the area in gray is the area outside of the grid. So we called outside so the urchins wouldn't come back onto the grid. And that was the majority of our effort was off the grid. Like 2/3 of our effort was off the grid. So this is another engagement summary of it, and this is about the divers that went on it. We have 187 urchinators that reported data. And that's something that is kind of interesting because we had the instructors report that they had trained 252 divers to do the training, but only 187 of them reported data. So there's a little disconnect there with people taking the class and then not submitting their data. So we did 1,527 dives on the project and the total hours underwater. 8.7 is the number of passes we did over the grid, which is actually really interesting because we kept going over it and over it, but we know by the divers going and the area that they covered, how many square meters they covered in a dive. And so we concluded that we went over it 8.7 times to try and keep the urchin numbers down. Um, this is the the divers is pretty consistent about the ability of the divers. It's consistent over time, but we tracked what certification level the divers coming onto the project were because it's open to open water students, but we also like this is open water and the rescue diver and so on. So we kind of have a pretty good demographic idea of who's coming. This is the survey results. So this site was surveyed by CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and Reef Check California. Reef Check has given us the data. The others have not. They're still doing QC or something. This is the restoration area. right here. The This kelp color is the kelp, and you can see how it gets better over time. And then this purple, well, this pinkish color is a combination of purple and red becomes pink. So this is both kinds of urchins, and their numbers came down very low, and then they started to creep up again towards the end of this project here. The control area is there was no kelp really that made it over there, and the urchin numbers remain pretty consistent, but it's kind of up and down. And in our ReefCheck data portal, and I could share that with you, you can look at it and see different species or different kelp or different things you want to understand about the data in the restoration or the control area. You can explore deeper into that. This is what the ReefCheck data says. It's on their website. There, this is the on the treatment site. The urchin densities came down real quick, and we kept them pretty low. And then there was right before in the winter time, they went up high again, and then we did some more work, and then we stopped calling at this point in July of 23, and then the urchin numbers kind of crept back up. Control is kind of up and down. These are error bars, so it's somewhere in that range would be um, what the urchin density was like. And Kelp did this number where it, on the treatment site, it started improving as we went along. And when we stopped culling, it came down. And this is the number of stipes in total of all the kelp. So that would have a kelp plant that got more stipes would be on it. And then if you look at individuals, like the urchins that were, um, how many individuals there were, they came down and kind of stayed down. There is new kelp recruitments on the site, but it's after we were calling them, they kind of maintained their numbers on the treatment side. The control site, I've never been there. I hear it's awful, but there wasn't really any kelp over there that grew. So we started taking a look at like the rates, like what's a work rate? Like what's the efficiency like for us going out there and doing this work? And we found that by hand collecting them, it's about 375 urchins per hour. And by calling them, we were faster. We're at 662 urchins per hour. And that's an average over, everybody doing the work. Some people are much faster, some are slower than it. This effort over here, this is us culling urchins, and this is the collection effort in Sonoma County at Stillwater Cove, where they were collecting them all in bags, bringing them back to shore, taking them and putting them into a field for fertilizer. And so we went north to Mendocino, and there's a red urchin fisherman there named John Holcomb. And since 2018, he's been developing an airlift that he was using as a commercial tool. And he made it open source. And so I made one. I made one in the barn. And basically, it uses it's a fiberglass and epoxy resin combination. It's very flexible and kind of easy to work with. You make a form and make these tubes, and this is the elbow, which is over top of a inner tube, a truck inner tube tire, to make this shape, and then you form it on top of that. There's just little rings that we made, and this is what it looks like when it's all together. It has an 8-inch nozzle here. It's 10 inches here, goes into an elbow, and then it comes down this way into a basket that can hold about 300 pounds of urchins. And we have a rake. So the urchin rake is what the urchin divers do. And we kind of modified it especially for purple urchins to be able to collect them. And, this has been in development for some time. And this is kind of a prototype that our goal is to make more of these prototypes. I tried to get it to be a recreational tool for us to use it, but the Fish and Game Commission and the Sea Urchin Commission objected to that it was a commercial tool. So we said, okay, well, let's let it be a commercial tool, and the commercial divers can come and use it in Monterey. So As an airlift tool, we can collect a lot more. I was up at Casper Cove with John Holcomb, and we collected in 4 hours about 18,500 urchins per hour. That's outrageously a lot because they have taken the big ones, and what the result is they have a lot of little ones up there, and they're so small that there's 150 urchins per pound. They are just a nightmare to deal with, but that airlift makes short work of them because it can vacuum them all up. So that's the game changer. So what we found is that the red urchin fishery is all over this state, except for in the sea otter range. We don't have sea otters within the central coast here because the sea otters eat those red urchins, and so no one's fished for red urchins here in the longest time. But the Sea Urchin Commission will still not permit us to go there with commercial tools and remove red urchins that are too small. They still want to believe that someday, I don't know what's going to happen, that they'll be able to have a red urchin fishery in the future. So tankers 2.0, new concept. We're going back to the same place. So we're going to use existing regulations to go back and do this work at Tankers Reef. And that means going back to the divers that are already certified and getting new recreational divers on the project. The commercial divers are going to be invited here to come and collect the purple urchins with an airlift. And then they're going to take these urchins, they're going to land them at the harbor. They'll be sorted for size. And the ones that are 4.5 centimeters or larger will go into the ranching effort at the Monterey Harbor. There's a Monterey abalone company there that's going to do the ranching of the effort of the urchins, and they will sell them to people in about 10 to 12 weeks. They get fattened up again. The ones that are smaller than that size will go into composting. So there's a whole composting going to pick it up and put them into, going to pulverize it and mix it with soil and make urchin compost. That leaves us with the recreational divers collecting 35 red urchins. That's the limit.
Sorry, I'm listening to a webinar right now. The G2KR webinar.
Yeah. Hey, Dane. I hear ya.
Oh, sorry
Uh,
about that.
oh, no
My bad.
worries.
I
No
thought I was
worries.
on mute.
Oh, no, we're good. I'm just recording it for other people. So good to see you. Good to
Oh,
know
I've been
you're
on
here.
since the beginning, but my bad.
I
I'm
know.
sorry. Going
No,
back to mute. My bad.
perfect. Good to hear you, Dane. Yeah, so the recreational divers can collect 35 red urchins, which is really, it sounds like it's not much compared to what we've done before, but 35, because of the ratio of purples to reds, 35 is actually a pretty substantial number. With a diver and a buddy collecting 70 urchins together, that will be what's very helpful because that way when the commercial divers come to vacuum up the purples, they won't have to avoid red urchins. They can just collect everything and not have to sort through it or avoid red urchins, knock them out of the way, this kind of thing. So it's the way to do it. So the way that the recreational diver activity will work is that we cannot assist the commercial divers. It's against the rules. We don't want to get anybody in trouble. We want to follow the rules. So commercial urchin divers can take purple urchins. There are no season or day of the week restrictions. They can take unlimited numbers of purple urchins of any size within there because it's a red urchin fishery primarily. So we're going to do that, but we can't go there and help them in any way, right? But the way that we're going to work with the recreational diver is as we did before. We'll get assignments at g2kr.com, same as we did before, and then you'll go out on the grid and go to that place and be working in that area, collecting 35 red urchins. You don't have to collect the little ones that are smaller than an inch. So collect only the red urchins that are an inch and larger, right? That's more manageable for people. And when it really comes to it, the commercial divers are allowed to take red urchins that are inch and a half and smaller. They're allowed to take those, right? They just can't take the red urchins in this range that's from 3.5 to 1.5. So and then you go to the g2kr.com site again and report your harvest. And then you're going to report if you see a bunch of purple urchins, like a big aggregation. We know that there's a bunch of them um, on the south part of the grid. Just put it in the notes, that you saw a bunch of purple urchins that are 2 inches and larger, right? So that will guide, we can tell the commercial divers, go get them over there. And that way they can make better use of their time in collecting the big ones and putting them into the ranching project. So after the commercial divers have done their thing, then we'll make new assignments and the recreational divers can go and clean up. So you'll be taking less urchins, but you'll be cleaning up after the effort and try to further reduce those numbers in the treatment area. But then you can take 35 reds and 35 purples and put them in the goodie bag and bring them back. So this is the site. Where you remember this. This is the grid right here. Here's the remaining kelp. And this is the collecting area that we're going to try and cover here. Our goal is to do this in 2 years to clear this area. If we go faster, we go faster. If we go slower, we go slower. It's okay. But we're going to try and get 92 acres out here collected, and then we'll land them right here at the Monterey Abalone Company. And the ranching barge is right there, and we'll ranch the urchins in that spot. And then we'll have sales. So there's a lot of effort around urchins and marketing them and trying to get them sold to tourists that come to town. And here's these purple urchins, and make a culinary product for people and a biostimulant for fertilizer. So kind of get it from both ends and try to make it a business. So what you're going to need, an additional tool this time around, is a goodie bag. So this is from the Trident catalog. I think as all dive shops probably have access to the Trident catalog. I would suggest you use a yellow bag would be the one to use. Green's a little big. It's going to be this unwieldy thing. So try to get something in I think the yellow one's a good size. And these are 18 by 30-inch goodie bags. You may have some already. Um, if you have a green one, you tie a knot in the bottom or whatever. But I think it's just kind of too big. And I like having the little handle on top rather than just an open mesh bag because that's kind of hard to handle underwater. That galvanized handle makes a good way to hold it. And they come with or without a D ring. The D ring's kind of nice because you can just clip it onto your belt. But you can always put a little lanyard through the handle as well to clip it onto you. This was one of our favorites. This is the Goodie Bag GB83 and it's 16 by 30 inch, and it's all canvas on the top, like a medium duty canvas. And it works pretty good for urchins because the urchin spines don't stick to the mesh. And so that's my recommendation, but you'll have to shop around a little bit, see if you can get them. I know at the North Coast at Casper Cove, they were donated 100 of them, and they were using them up north. I don't know where those are right now, but that's the goodie bag. So some questions that I thought of, and I want to hear your questions too, is what are the frequently asked questions that divers are going to ask? So the first thing is, yes, you're going to need to get a sport fishing license again. And the resident, they keep raising them, raising the rates. So the resident cost for a fishing license is $62.90, and non-resident is $169. It's a 365-day license, so it's not beginning of the year. It's whenever you get it, it expires at that same time the following year. So that's kind of to our advantage since we're starting later in this year, that you can probably go the next season with the same license. So I asked the law enforcement division, what do you want us to do with all these urchins? Can we add them to compost? And they said no, because then you're making money at it, right? So you have to take these urchins and you have to take them home or put them in the trash, right? It's unfortunate, but these urchins are not going to have a lot of gonad in them. They're probably not going to be something you'll want to eat, but that's unfortunately what we need to do with them. It would be good if we didn't leave them in garbage cans all around Monterey, like a public garbage can, just so people don't complain about the stink that's going to come from them. So you could just take them home and put them in your trash or put them in your garden, bury them in a hole and see if uh, they grow a flower for you. Try it. Um, Mary Jo Nelson will be doing the Beach Hopper 2 again on Wednesdays, and the rate for the charter is $60 per person. And the Del Monte townhomes, the condos there, we can go back into their parking lot there and park right by the pool. The combination is pound 1702. I will not be sharing that with all of the divers that are at um, the diver webinar, but to you instructors, you can take your students there. They ask us to have 3 cars maximum in their parking lot just so that they have room to park there as well. And the data portal is changed. Matt and I have been working on that, mostly Matt, changing that to not say culling to we are collecting them, and it only goes up to 35 urchins of each species that you can collect. So that's Tankers 2.0. This only got one slide left. We're almost there, and this is the future prospects for kelp restoration in Monterey. And that is a petition that we have going with the Fish and Game Commission. It'll be decided this year. The hope is to get it done by December. And what can we do in these areas? And so our petition is to go into right here where San Carlos Beach is, where all the sea lions are these days, and remove the urchins there with all means, with commercial divers and everything. And in State Marine Conservation Area here, or the old Coral Street, everything to the west of Lovers, and then in Carmel Bay, um, this whole area, Stillwater, and going down to the border of North Monastery over here, and culling in this area, not collecting in this area. But in this proposal, we could cull urchins, we can bait and trap urchins. We have commercial restoration by harvest of the purple urchins with the airlift. Going to manage acid weed, remove invasive species. We have a lot of invasive things in there. We're going to try to manage them better. We're going to plant kelp and transplant kelp out on the reef and manage the kelp canopy by pruning it. Like when you prune kelp, like an apple or tree or something, it becomes better than if you didn't prune it, and it also reduces that winter storms tearing off the kelp canopy and putting it on the shore. And we need to prohibit fishing in the areas while we're doing restoration, because we don't need fishermen fishing on it while we're down there doing the work. And that's all I have. Let me stop the recording, and so people who, oh, I'll stop it.